This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're throwing it back. So yesterday I kind of did another rendition, however you want to say it, of an old podcast, The Surfer, one of my favorite ones, and one of the podcasts I've had probably the most feedback on. And so I use that as motivation for the rest of this week. So the rest of this week, we're actually going to be revisiting podcasts over the last 300 and rehashing it again. So today I'm going to talk about Slaying the Dragon. So at the end of every show, unless I have a theme for that particular day, I will sign off and peace and pizza. Reason being is that I think both of those things are fantastic, and the world would be a better place if we had more of both. So peace and pizza. I then say kick today in the dick. I think that presupposes the day's a male now that I think about it. But I mean, if I said kick the day in the vagina, it just doesn't have the same, kick the day in the genitalia, whatever. It's just a phrase to say fucking own the day. That's really what it means. That's it. There's nothing more to it. You don't have to kick it in the dick. Maybe just ignore the dick or the person. Maybe the dick is simply a symbol of someone you don't like. I don't care. Whatever. It just means own your fucking day. And then Slay the Dragon. Actually, Slay the Dragon is the most meaningful part out of the whole farewell. Slay the Dragon is not simply just some sort of, I don't know, innuendo about Shrek. Slay the Dragon means to find the darkest parts, the monsters that you harvest within, that when ignored, grow from lizards to dragons that can destroy your life and your city that you live in, so to speak, your world. To go and tame or slay the dragon that you have created. And so today's talking about slaying the dragon. So what do I actually mean? And it's more of a mythological term, right? And this whole idea of slaying the dragon. And let's talk about what the dragon actually is. So the dragon is something that hides in a dark, deep cave. Now, on the other side of the dragon is often your treasure. And so this is the same as saying that freedom's on the other side of your fear, right? Because everyone's fear is different. But being able to face the fear and move through the fear means that what we are is more important, what we want is more important than the fear itself. And when we can be in that space, that's when we face the dragon. And moving through the fear is actually slaying the dragon. On the other side is freedom or your treasure, right? And typically through mythology, it was gold, or it was the princess, or whatever it may be. But either way, male or female, I don't give a shit. Slaying the dragon is talking to finding the darkest parts of you that you have been avoiding, that you ignore, the parts of your personality that are growing when you ignore them. Because the thing about our personality and ourself, our consciousness, our essence, whatever terms you want to use, is that whatever we ignore feeds, it grows. That's why whatever you resist persists, as Carl Jung said. So the whole idea here about slaying the dragon, and I also, paraphrase that to taming the dragon. Sometimes dragons and your fears and all that kind of stuff isn't there to be slayed. Sometimes taming them is a way to go, and that's up to you per the dragon, whatever your dragon is. But the beautiful thing here, and the most important thing out of this whole thing, is two things. One, the longer you ignore the dragon, and every single fucking person listening to this right now has something that comes to mind, right? The longer you ignore that, the worse it gets. And the reality is that you fucking know that, and you still do it, right? With something. We all do on some level, somewhere. And so, one by one fucking dragon at a time, and if we can have the difficult conversation early, early on, we can address the dragon when it's just a fucking baby, right? Rather than waiting and hoping the dragon sorts itself out. And then for some reason you're like, oh, my whole fucking life's upside down. How did that happen? It just happened all of a sudden. No, it fucking didn't. You ignored it for years. It could be paperwork. It could be a conversation with your spouse. It could be your children, right? It could be an injury waiting to happen, because injuries don't just happen, right? Injuries don't just, very rarely, that's called an acute injury. It's usually from an impact. Injuries usually occur, and the injuries that can be mental as well, by the way. Injuries could be a career injury, right? So injuries, you think, it's called creep loading. It loads, just creeping ever so slightly, ever so slightly, ever so slightly, until one day it's the straw that broke the camel's back and you get injured, right? Think about how that relates to so many other areas in life. But if we can build this innate awareness and conversations with ourselves around truly being able to have this really deep listening to ourselves, we can we can avoid that injury and getting it early. We can avoid the dragon by dealing with the baby dragon, right? The lizard, so to speak. But we have to have this real acute self-awareness to be able to do that. And this creep loading over time gets sore, and we might feel there, we ignore it. And we just keep pushing through because, hey, that's what we should do. So our mindset is fucking us. That's why it shouldn't be set. You should have this mind fluidity that allows you, this mental fluidity that allows you to be able to respond to every single moment as required, as opposed to just letting a set of rules dictate your whole agenda. That's just black and white. It's not process. It's not maturing, because you set these rules at a particular age, and what happens is that now you lack flexibility in the moment, right? So the ability to be able to have those decisions every single moment dictated by who you are in that moment and what's important, what's required of you, is pure mental fluidity. And that way we can start addressing the dragons when they're very, very young, before they fucking eat our hometown, right? Before they burn down the city that we know, right? When chaos reigns from what looks like something unprecedented. It's like, oh, how did that happen? It's like, you fucking know. You know exactly how it happened. And you had every opportunity to stop it. To at least, now you're in damage control, you know? And that's the beauty of it. So, yeah, slaying the dragon is addressing the difficult conversations while they're still difficult, but they're doable. Because not every decision that you have to make is going to be good and bad. This is so crucial. Not every single decision you're going to make is good or bad. Sometimes the decisions you make is good and great. Sometimes the decisions you make, the options are bad and fucking horrible. Either way, you've still got a decision to make. The other beautiful thing that comes from understanding this is that your development is completely in you taking action, you leaning into the things that are difficult, right? It goes back to the same mythological story of King Arthur, where in search of the Holy Grail, they had to enter the forest at the part that seems most darkest to them. This is why it's not just taking someone else's advice, because that advice is on their life. Take it in relation to understanding it. Maybe there's some utility in it, but the reality is that when we enter the forest that's most darkest to us, when we go and fight the dragon, we're actually leaning into our potential. We're pursuing and we're taking action on things that matter to us. And if the world just lived in that space, just for a little while, we would have a completely different result. One of the key words there is action. If you don't take any action, the dragon just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So when it comes and burns down the city and you didn't take any fucking action, maybe you were frozen, maybe you were scared. And that's okay to be scared. It's just not okay to not do something. But when it comes and burns down the city, just don't act like a victim. You knew that was going to happen. You just ignored it. Team, I fucking love the idea of slaying the dragon. I hope you really embrace this and see the things within you that you need to make sure that you end up slaying or taming. And I hope you find a lot of benefit in that. I hope that you're able to see a lot of benefit in that. But otherwise, I'm going to sign off here. So if you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. If you share it on social media, on Instagram especially, make sure you tag me at DDNix. If you haven't already found me on there, come and find me on there. Otherwise, jump on Facebook, search Me Prep Online. I'd love to see you in there as well. Team, that is me. I am done. Until next time, you know the deal. Peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. And slay your dragon. I'll see you guys soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be be unbridled and unburdened.